Welcome to the Booknook podcast.
Great to be diving into another classic.
Absolutely. Today, we're exploring a really beloved children's story, The Velveteen Rabbit, or How Toys Become Real, by Margery Williams. Such a timeless tale.
It really is.
And if you want to grab a copy for yourself or maybe for someone special, there's a link to purchase the book right there in the description.
Good idea. It's amazing, isn't it? A book from, 1922, and it keeps inspiring new things.
Exactly. That's what we want to unpack today. We're looking at how this story holds up through the lens of some recent adaptations. We've got reviews for a ballet, a musical, and even an Apple TV Plus movie.
Right, quite a range. Ballet Lorentz dance version, a theater production from Belfast, and the newer film. It really makes you wonder why this story connects so deeply across time and different art forms.
That's the mission. What makes this seemingly simple children's story, so profound? Why does it still capture imaginations, young and old? We're going to explore those themes: reality, love, childhood magic.
Drawing on these different takes, yeah. Should be fascinating.
So let's start with the book itself. Its enduring appeal. 1922. It's a cornerstone of children's picture books.
Definitely. And that central idea, becoming real, not just existing, but becoming real through a child's love, that's powerful stuff.
It really is. People often list it as a favorite, don't they? And those William Nicholson illustrations, they're just iconic.
Oh, completely. They're inseparable from the story in many people's minds. And it seems that core idea, becoming real, is the jumping off point for all these adaptations we're looking at.
Yeah, let's take the Ballet Laurent dance adaptation first. We saw a review from December 2024, and it was glowing. Called it excellent. Probably one of the best things Ballet Laurent have ever done. High praise.
Wow. Okay, so what did they do with it? How do you translate that story into dance?
Well, the review mentions it's framed around a man clearing out his old home, and he starts dreaming about his childhood toys, especially the Velveteen Rabbit.
Ah, so a memory piece. That makes sense for dance, focusing on the emotion and the relationship.
Exactly. And it seems they really highlighted the contrast, between the sort of snubbing mechanical toys and the rabbit who earns the boy's love and starts that journey to becoming real.
That's interesting. Even the wild rabbits, the review says, don't see him as real at first.
Right. It reinforces that real isn't about what you are physically, but about, something deeper: love, connection.
And they kept the philosophical heart, the conversation with the skin horse.
Apparently so. That key moment where the old, wise skin horse explains it all, what it really means to be real. That seems central to the ballet, too.
Good, because that's the core, isn't it? It makes you think about what gives things, or even people, genuine value.
Yeah. Now, something I found interesting was the mention of humor. The reviewer noted there's maybe more humor in the ballet than the book, especially with the other toys, the robot, the Jack-in-the-Box. Kids were apparently loving it.
That's a smart move for a live performance, especially with kids in the audience. It adds texture, maybe makes the rabbit's sincerity stand out even more against the silliness or rigidity of the others.
Yeah. Makes sense. And the review praised pretty much everything Liv Laurent's choreography, the mix of narration and music, the costumes, the set, described as deceptively simple.
Sounds like a really well-rounded production.
It does. They even had audience interaction kids feeding knitted carrots to the dancers dressed as rabbits.
Oh, that's lovely.
And get this, volunteer super knitters made beautiful cushions for the audience to sit on.
Wow. That's a really nice touch. Builds a sense of community around the show.
Totally. The reviewer clearly thought it was something special, predicting it could run and run, or maybe hop and hop.
Yes. It shows the story's core message can still land powerfully, even in a totally different medium like ballet.
Okay, so from ballet, let's shift gears to musical theater. There was a production in Belfast.
Yeah, a co-production, it seems, at the Lyric Theatre for a children's festival in 2025. This one took a different approach, setting it in Belfast in the 1980s.
The 80s. And the little boy is called Wee Man. That definitely grounds it differently.
It does. And the writer, Jan Carson, apparently did an imaginative reworking, even explored the difference between velveteen and velvet, which is an interesting detail to pull out.
And Duke Special wrote the music. The review mentions lovely songs, particularly one called Nobody Gets to Be Real.
Ooh, Nobody Gets to Be Real. That sounds quite wistful, doesn't it? Maybe a bit more melancholic than the book's ultimate message. Or perhaps exploring the difficulty of becoming real.
Could be. It suggests maybe a more nuanced take on that central theme. But there was humor, too. Apparently jokes about Christmas, the toys, worrying about new arrivals replacing them.
Ah, the classic toy anxiety. Very relatable. And they highlighted a specific toy here, too.
Yeah, the robot called Robbo was apparently a star turn, very proud of being durable and mechanical. Again, that contrast with the soft-loved rabbit.
It's interesting how each adaptation seems to pick different supporting characters to emphasize.
And the ending. This is quite different. No scarlet fever, no burning. Instead, the boy gets a bad bug, and the toys face either the washing machine or the dump.
Okay, so a modernization of the threat, I guess. Less final than fire.
Right. But the rabbit still gets a chance to become real, joining the actual rabbits outside. Described as a wonderful scene of frolicking and running.
So a more overtly happy or at least hopeful transformation for the rabbit in that version. Less bittersweet than the original ending, maybe.
Seems like it. The review still called it a classic retelling, with a decent message worth taking kids to. So different path, but still landing that core idea.
It really shows the flexibility of the original story, how it can be reshaped for different times and places.
Definitely. Okay, before we get to the film, just a quick reminder, if you're enjoying this deep dive, please do think about subscribing to the Book Nook podcast and maybe leaving us a review. It really helps other book lovers find the show.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So the Apple TV Plus movie, this one blends live action and animation.
Yes, a quaint remake, the review called it. Rated PG, about 34 minutes long, live action for the human world, animation, some stop motion apparently for when the toys talk.
That's a common technique for this kind of story. And a pretty stellar voice cast. Helena Bonham Carter, Patterson Joseph.
Nicola Coughlan, Alex Walther. Yeah, impressive. And they apparently did a good job evoking the original 1920s setting in the live action parts.
Any major changes to the story?
Minor ones. The skin horse is renamed the Wise Horse. The reviewer thought that was an okay change for, modern sensibilities.
Sure, makes sense. How did they feel about the overall tone?
Sweet, but also quite melancholy. It captured that sense of childhood magic being kind of fleeting. The reviewer stressed talking to kids about how the magic in the story really comes from love.
That's a good point. It's not just poof, magic happens. It's earned through affection.
Right. Though they did feel it was maybe a bit short, even acknowledging the book is brief, and the ending felt abrupt, subtle. They wish for maybe a clearer transformation scene for the rabbit.
That can be tricky visually, can't it? The book relies on that internal feeling of becoming real. Showing it conclusively on screen without being, cheesy is hard.
True. They also wanted a bit more wisdom from the horse, more explicit talk about love. And interestingly, they felt only one character, Momo, played by Tilly Volsberg, had real warmth.
Oh, that's a specific critique. Maybe the overall tone leaned a bit too heavily into the melancholy.
Perhaps. The reviewer wondered if the deep sadness might be tough for kids used to straightforward happy endings, and suggested parents might get more out of the nostalgia than younger viewers.
That's often the case with adaptations of older classics, isn't it? There's that layer for the adults who grew up with it.
Yeah. And a couple of practical points they advise parents to maybe chat with kids about the difference between real and pretend, as the movie blurs that line. And also, the mention of scarlet fever, even if brief, might need explaining now.
Good points, especially the historical context of scarlet fever. But they did highlight some of those amazing lines, right, from the book and the movie.
Oh yeah, the wise horse. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real. Just perfect.
It is. And the fairies lines, too, about becoming real through unconditional love and kindness, and how it's about what's inside, not how you look.
So important. And that other bit from the wise horse. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby.
But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. It's just beautiful, such a profound metaphor for love and acceptance, seeing beyond the surface.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this story lasts. It taps into something so fundamental about love, loss, connection, what truly matters, whether it's ballet or a musical set in the 80s or this animated film, that core message shines through.
Absolutely. It makes you think, doesn't it, about your own childhood. Did you have a toy like that, one that felt, well, real to you because of how much you loved it?
It's a powerful thing to consider, the magic we create through affection, through connection, that idea of unconditional love.
It really is.
So if we've sparked your curiosity about the Velveteen Rabbit all over again, definitely check out the original book link in the description. And maybe seek out one of these adaptations if you can.
See how they bring that magic to life in different ways.
And one last time, if you enjoyed our chat today, please subscribe, leave a review, let us know what you think. It helps others find the Book Nook podcast.
We hope this gave you some fresh perspectives on a truly timeless story.
Thank you so much for listening to the Book Nook podcast. And don't forget that link in the description if you want to get your own copy of the Velveteen Rabbit.